welcome to HITC Sport. Alright, you all thought it was over, right? You suddenly thought we'd won the war. We'd abolished the Super League plans. Suddenly, UEFA were saying all the right things. Alexander Seferin spent the week looking like he wanted to drown Andrea Agnelli in a shallow pond of cat piss. UEFA were threatening those villainous Super League monsters. So for 4 days, we saw these fellas as the good guys, right? No, after 72 hours of speaking out against utter greed in football, now they've decided to take the greatest club competition in the world, hoist it by its ankles, and crack its spine over a block of cement. From 2024, the UEFA Champions League is going to resemble a crippled version of the great tournament it once was. Like, what is wrong with the tournament we have now? Why do UEFA or other footballing bodies feel the need to keep picking at these competitions? For what? For money? Good Christ. That's the reason the World Cup is going to be expanded to 48 teams. I'm sorry, who wants to see 50 teams playing the greatest competition on planet Earth? Who wants to see Luxembourg versus Bolivia? I'd rather scoop my eyes out with a spoon. Why not just do away with the qualifiers altogether? Just let everyone in. Open the door to every country in the world. Yeah, drag a few Belarusian plumbers in to the most prestigious tournament of world sport. Open the doors to North Korean goalies with the wrist strength of an 86-year-old grandmother of 7. Let's see Samoa versus Hong Kong. Why not? I remember the European Championship when it was comprised of just 16 teams. Sure, it meant less money, but good Christ, it made for a much more competitive tournament full of higher caliber teams. But lads, during Euro 2016, we had to sit through group games like Austria versus Hungary, Poland versus Northern Ireland, and Slovakia versus Russia. Trust me, it was like sitting through a homemade tape of a dog giving birth. And so now, just like everything else, the Champions League is about to be ripped apart. And because of the Super League this week, nobody seems to have noticed. Nobody is covering it, nobody is talking about it. And lads, by next week, you'll all have sobered up and finally realised that not only has Jose Mourinho been replaced in the Tottenham dugout by a prepubescent child, but the Champions League has been utterly chewed to pieces by a family of hungry pigs. Alright, let's just take a look at what's being proposed. Actually, no, not proposed. What's going to happen? Right, well right now, the structure of the Champions League is a 32-team competition split up into 8 different groups. And lads, that works just fine. It's perfect. It's great. The 2 teams qualify from each group. It's brilliant. The reason for these changes is supposedly to give the teams more games, right? Instead of just sending half the teams home before Christmas. But I'm sorry, lads. Some teams deserve to go. I don't want to see Dynamo Kiev, Ferencvaros, and FC Midtjylland play any more games in this competition. Istanbul Başakşehir have been an utter joke in Turkish football this season. The fact they were allowed to play 6 Champions League matches before Christmas, when they've most been stumbling about like a family of drunken hillbillies, even that is more than they deserve. But no, now the group stages are being done away with. Instead, it'll be a 36-team league. Sounds familiar, right? The idea was also dreamt up by Andrea Agnelli. To him, it's his ideal version of a Champions League. I'm sorry, I know he's since resigned from UEFA, but if there's one thing we've learned this week, it's not to trust a single word out of his mouth. He's essentially football's answer to Peter Pettigrew. Oh, that one's gonna make all the nerds out there weak at the knees. Good Christ, Alexander Seferin made this guy godfathers to his children, and he still chucked his loyalty out the window to stab him in the back. If Agnelli was behind these plans at any point, then I do not want them introduced to football, I want them flushed down a toilet. So right, a 36-team league then, with each team playing 10 games. 5 at home and 5 away. Great. So for example, this season, that means we would have seen Ferencvaros play 10 times. 10 times! Good Christ. By the time this league is done, we're going to be getting sick out our eyes. You have to play 10 times before you even get to the knockout stage. It's going to bore us all to tears. Yeah, it's great news for the European minnows of the world, I suppose. Think of the match day revenues, the ticket sales, the TV box office ratings 10 times. But also think of the fans here. This season, the proud fans of clubs like Marseille, Rennes, and St. Petersburg were probably relieved to be put out of their misery before Christmas. They didn't want their pain prolonged in this competition when they clearly weren't ready for it. They didn't want their dignity spat over the pavement on a bi-weekly basis. But now, under these rules, imagine if Dundalk sneaked their way to the Champions League before getting utterly slapped around 10 times in a row. Just utterly embarrassing for all concerned. Right, so then the teams who finish inside the top 8 of this league, they'll automatically advance to the next round, and then the next 16 teams below them will enter a playoff to create a 16-team knockout stage. And whoever wins that will then get to play the other 8 in the last 16 of the Champions League. Yeah, it's getting complicated now, but stay with me. This is where things get very messy. 32 teams will qualify for this tournament the old-fashioned way. You know, the ones based on sporting merit, where you finish in your domestic league. But there is a lifeline for underperforming big clubs, because the 2 teams with the best club coefficient in UEFA's rankings will be allowed to join and qualify so long as they finish between 5th and 7th in the league. Listen, this idea isn't the Super League, but there are similarities, and this idea, allowing underperforming clubs to qualify based purely on their name, again, it's just pure elitism. For example, this season, all Arsenal would need to do is to scrape the bare minimum of 7th in the league, and they'd be rewarded with Champions League football. This is a surefire way to let big clubs lower their standards. The Arsenal board have given up winning league titles years ago. Now it's all about top 4, but under these rules, it'll be all about top 7. Lads, are we forgetting what the tournament actually is? It's called the Champions League. What is champion about finishing 7th? That's nearly halfway down the goddamn league. Back under the old European Cup rules, you used to be only able to qualify if you won your domestic league. Listen, they had to update that for obvious reasons, but still, the top 4 works. It keeps things exciting towards the end of the season. Look at Liverpool. Their title race was in tatters by late January. But still, what's kept things interesting is wondering whether or not they can pip Leicester, West Ham or Chelsea to the top 4, scraping into the Champions League, which is vital for the club. But now, it doesn't matter if you finish inside the Europa League places. If you're a big club, you're still getting to this tournament. Lads, under these rules, Manchester United will have qualified for the Champions League under David Moyes, and he was mostly a wet garbage bag of managerial ineptitude for 9 goddamn months. The battle for top 4 will no longer exist. As long as you're one of the big boys, you're always fairly assured of Champions League football. But if you're a lowly peasant like West Ham, Everton or Leicester, if you finish 5th, 6th or 7th, then forget it. You're not allowed in. No, instead enjoy spending your Thursday night traveling to the back arse of Kazakhstan to face a bunch of Borat lookalikes. This new Champions League format rewards the rich. It benefits the bigger clubs. It's not the Super League, but it gives a leg up to the giants of European football based on nothing more than their name and how much money they can generate for the competition. There's also now a guaranteed 4th Champions League qualification spot for the 5th biggest league in Europe, and that is always France. Lads, who sat around a table at UEFA and thought,
I know what we need in the Champions League. More French teams.
Listen, I have nothing against Ligue 1, and I don't agree that it's a farmers league, but for the last decade, 11 French teams have failed to make it out of the Champions League group, and another 4 French teams were knocked out in the qualifying rounds. Why do we want? What's the point of bringing in more French? Anyway, in a week of Super League chat, we have to touch on the other news, because we're now listening to the idea of a British Super League being rammed down our throats. Of all the weeks to start talking about this, but yeah, Rangers and Celtic are once again banging on the door of the Premier League. Listen, lads, the Super League was an abomination of an idea, but it's also true that football fans just hate change. Just look at what everyone thinks of VAR. People didn't want Premier League games shown on Friday nights. People didn't want expanded World Cups. People didn't want the Champions League final being played on a Saturday night instead of Wednesdays. I mean, I still feel that way. Bring back the Wednesday Champions League finals. What's it doing on Saturday? It's not the goddamn X Factor. Anyway, I actually wouldn't be against the idea of Celtic and Rangers being chucked into the English football pyramid. Let's be honest, what do these clubs get out of playing in Scotland? Celtic just went nearly a decade of winning nearly every domestic match in sight. After a while, that must get boring. After a while, you must just get desensitized to 3 points of the weekend. What's the fun in beating up Motherwell and Ross County every week? Listen, if you stuck Celtic in the Premier League now, oh, you're damn right they'd be finishing bottom of the league, but they're both huge clubs in their own right. Give them a share of the TV money, the commercialization, and they'd be half decent mid-table outfits within 5 years. You might say,
Oh, it's the English football pyramid.
I am. Cardiff City and Swansea. That's a funny looking English set of teams. One of them is the capital of bastard Wales. What's also being suggested is the idea of a top 4 playoff. But lads, I've been wanting that one for years. Mid-table mediocrity is a killer. Look at it now. From Wolves to Brighton, there's nothing to play for. Crystal Palace fans probably switched off months ago. I think if instead of automatically rewarding 4th with Champions League, I think you should put them into a playoff with 5th, 6th and 7th. It will keep things interesting. In that case, Leeds are only 7 points off Champions League football. As things stand, you're looking at Chelsea v Liverpool and Tottenham v West Ham in the playoffs, and I'm sorry, am I the only one who thinks that's a mouth-watering set of legs? Anyway, that is the end of the video. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think? What do you think of the British Super League with Celtic and Rangers? What do you think of a potential top 4 playoff? But also, what do you think of the new Champions League format? Is it just a Super League in disguise? Let me know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and as always, I'll talk to you in a while.